In this episode, we're going to be working with the pen tool to remove this background layer so that we have a transparent image that we can place anywhere and have any sort of background behind it. We're in Photoshop, and I've said it before, I don't use Photoshop a ton, but I have used Photoshop since like 1996. So I'm well versed in what it can and can't do. But one of the things that I think it does really well is the ability to just remove backgrounds from images. Image editing is, there's so many different image editing tools, but there are very few that are on the level of Photoshop when it comes to manipulation. And when we're talking about manipulation, removing the background of an image is definitely in that area. So what I'm going to do when I select the pen tool, it's right here, midway down, and I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. You'll notice I've got a much different cursor now than I did just a few moments ago. I like to get in as close as I can to the image, but I also like to leave myself enough room to see where the curve is going to be. And I've seen, I'll show you a quick mistake that a lot of people make. A lot of people do this thing where they try to make as many little points as they possibly can. And what this will do, frankly, is it's not wrong. It just isn't taking advantage of the fact that you have a very powerful tool available to you with the pen tool. And if it's used properly, it can make this go a lot faster for yourself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come about midway up here, and I'm going to pull. I'm holding down the mouse as I pull. And what this does is as you drag these levers, what this does is it allows you to control that curve. And what I like to do is I like to think about where I'm going next and pull appropriately. Now, what you'll notice is the first time I placed the point, I clicked and dragged much further than the second one. And the second one, the reason I didn't drag as far is because I'm making a much more detailed and refined move. And as I go, in areas like this, what you'll notice is I'm going to change direction. So rather than dragging it all, I want to now give all the power to adjust that curve to the next point. And this is where years of experience working with Photoshop come into play. This is not something that I would expect you to do if you've never used it before. And I do have some exercises at newpragmatic.com for you to work with. So if you're saying, hey, I'd like to get some practice working with the pen tool, go check out newpragmatic.com. As we continue to drag and work around, I'm going to real quickly move around the rest of this image so that we can get to the point that you're all interested in, which is getting rid of that background. Okay, there we have it. We've actually finished up making our first of the paths that we'll need for this. And you can see, if we look at paths, we have this work path that's gone all the way around. The one issue, though, that we have is that there's a spot right here that's going to cause a problem. Right here at the glasses, which I'm not wearing right now, so I'm going to get in big trouble for this. But right here at the glasses, we have an issue where we're going to need to trim this. And the first thing that I'm going to do is obviously get in here really closely so I get the outline correct. We're going to click again, and as you can see, it's making a new path here. The old path is still there, but because I close the old path, I can make a second path that now will act as a selection that will remove these other elements, and I'm having to back up just a bit to get it right. And these details are nice to get. I'm going to give my eyelashes just a little bit of a trim. I am going to get a couple of them in here because as I had an editor once tell me, the human face is not perfectly smooth. You do need some of that texture. But what I will also add is that there are other methods for cutting out hair. I'm not using them here because I'm bald. But that said, now we have our work path, and we have this interior path, and we have an exterior path. So now when I come over to the drop down, I'll go ahead and save the path, and we can just call this outline. Now I'm going to say make selection. And now what this will allow me to do is I can come back over to layers, copy paste, and now I've got that entire image without the background. At this point, what I typically like to do, being that I've got the image toned and I've got the path set and I've got the layers, I like to go ahead and save a version of this file because it is getting pretty big. I mean, this is like 110 megabytes down here. The first thing I'm going to do to clean it up is I'm going to go ahead and crop out the parts of it that I don't need. This will help make it just a little bit smaller in size. So right away, it went from a total size of 60 something megs to now it's 55. So that's nominal, but it does make it a little easier to tuck away on your machine. Now I'm going to say save as, and I'm going to save this as a Photoshop file. All right, and I'll call this March cutout. And this March cutout glasses. This March cutout, I'm going to go ahead and save it as a Photoshop file. What that does is it makes it to where it's completely editable. I have the paths, I have the layers, I have everything about the file is still editable. So I'm going to say, and that's not to be confused with editable, but it's still editable. And now that I've done that, this file can be reopened and reused in any number of different ways. And I still have like the background, and that's all great. The next thing I want to do though is I do want to make this black and white because as I showed you earlier, the style here is green background, black and white image on top. So I need this to become a black and white image. To do that, I'll go to Image, Mode, Grayscale. I'm going to say don't merge because I don't want this to flatten down. I'll discard the color information. And now what we have is we have a black and white version of the image we had before. However, this is not stark enough. I want more contrast. I want less grayscale. Something between like a pure black and white image and this grayscale is what I'm really going after. And I say that because of what you see here. This image, if I just pulled it over right now, would seem really light by comparison to the images that I'm typically using in this campaign. So I'm going to come back down to adjustments, and I'm going to adjust my levels again, and now I'm going to bring those shadows in, and I'm going to bring my highlights up, and I'm probably going to adjust this to be a little darker. And now this has become a lot more graphic. It feels very much more, and I gotta be honest, I'm a cartoon anyway, so there you go. Let's go ahead and look at this on history so we can kind of see where we went from. We went from there to there. It's a lot darker in tone. And of course, if we went back all the way back to where we started, it's a way different image now, right? The next thing we want to do is we want to preserve the background. I'm going to save this two ways so you get a sense of what a JPEG can do for you and what a PNG can do for you, because I've had that question come up too. We're going to say File, Save As, and I'm going to save this first as JPEG. And we'll say March Cutout Glasses BW. Okay, and it's BW JPEG. And we'll save it. And I'm not going to worry about any of these control. I just want to focus on what the difference between a PNG and a JPEG is. Now I'm going to save it as a PNG. And a PNG will be a larger file. But what it does for you is important. And as you can see, I'm saving these with the same name. Only the PNG and the JPEG are different. Let's go back over to our desktop. And I'm going to first click on the PNG. There's the PNG. Looks quite stark. And here is the JPEG. Did you notice a difference? I bet you did. The JPEG has a white background on it. It is not transparent. The PNG is. So if we look at the file size on this, you can see that the file size for the PNG is 7.3 megabytes, and the file size for the JPEG is 5 megabytes. The JPEG is a far more compressed file than this PNG, but the PNG has a transparency. So I could way further optimize these. These are not something I'm going to put online. I'm posting these to Instagram, so I do want to have the quality to be a little higher here. The thing that I want you to keep in mind is, do I need the transparency? If you're editing a file and you don't need the transparency, go ahead and save it as a JPEG. Saving everything as a PNG is just going to make your files larger. However, if you need that transparency, you shouldn't save it as a JPEG, because ultimately you're going to have to come back and resave it anyway. So that's the difference between PNG and JPEG. Situationally, I just want you to have a little better understanding of why you would save one as save it sometimes as a JPEG and other times as a PNG. But now all I have to do is come back over into Figma, and I'm going to go ahead and place my image. Let's do the PNG. And there I be in all my glory. And as you can see, that's a little stark. It seems like I'm, and obviously I can't necessarily get the hand in there. It's a little stark. So what I could do honestly is come back to Photoshop and say, hey, you know what? History. Why don't we pull that back? Why don't we make this less stark? I'm going to go ahead and save it. I'll say save as. We need to save this as a PNG. We need to save it as that one. Go ahead and replace. And now we'll come back over to Figma. And while Figma won't just update the image, I can just place it right back where it was. And now this is very much much closer to where I would want it to be. What I would say is I want that new pragmatic logo that I like so much to be in the foreground. So there it is. And now you have episode 9, episode 10, episode 11. You have the semblance of the beginning of a style for the brand. And that's how we do it. So I hope that the past couple of videos has been helpful for you to get a look at how toning works, to get a look at how to get rid of that background and why you might use a JPEG versus a PNG, and then how to import these things into Figma. But with that, I'm Chris Courtney, New Pragmatic. We'll talk again soon.